What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning into this video. I'm Nash, and in this video, I'm gonna break down how do you start an RV park. I mean, it's a daunting thing to think about. I've gotten a couple emails, I've gotten some comments. People kind of just don't really know where to start. I can relate because I didn't really know where to start when I began. So I wanna kind of break it down, just kind of the basics of infrastructure and kind of what you need and kind of what your budget would be if you're gonna start an RV park. So I'm gonna first break down my property a little bit. So I'm here in Central Texas and I bought a piece of property, about 10 acres of land, and I bought it for $85,000. But what I did was I made a down payment on the land followed by monthly payments to the owner. So that's called an owner finance. So I didn't go through a bank, I didn't go through a realtor. It was just me and the landowner, and I bought the land from them using a down payment followed by payments. I still make those payments today. That's called an owner finance, just kind of like a rent-to-own situation. So obviously, when you're starting an RV park, you need to have land, okay? You need to have land, you need to have a plan for what you're gonna do. How many sites are you gonna put out there? You're gonna put 100 sites? You're gonna just put 20, 15, 50? You have to decide how big you want, how much debt you wanna take on. If you're gonna take on any debt, that's all dependent on you. And you need to figure out what side of the spectrum are you on. So are you gonna use somebody else's money to get it started? Are you gonna use your own money to get it started? If you're gonna use your own money to get it started, it could be pricey. If you're gonna use somebody else's money, you need to make sure that you have enough coming in to be able to pay your payments and still be profiting. All those things are really important. So number one, though, we're just getting to the basics. Number one is you need to have a piece of land. So you need to have a piece of land. However big it is dependent upon you. For us, we knew, okay, we want at least 40 lots. We bought a 10-acre property, which was plenty of land. Our goal was to give each tenant a good amount of space so they felt like they were in an isolated feel, that they had their own privacy, and that they weren't just right next to somebody. So that was important to us. But we said at least 40, which 10 acres was sufficient for. Another thing that's important when you're buying that piece of property is you need to first, before you buy it, you need to talk with the county or the city or wherever you're at, a local governance, to see if it's permissible to do the plan in which you're planning. So you need to explain to them your plan. Hey, I'm looking to put X amount of lots on this piece of property in this zoning that it's in. What is the potential? How many can I get? If it's sufficient, great. Then you move forward. But if it's not, you need to look for another property. And that's the first thing you do before you buy a property, is know the rules and regulations. That's why I recommend try to get in a landlord-friendly state if you can, like Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, some states like that, because other states you're gonna have less flexibility. Also too, you need to know, in terms of the zoning and the conditions, how many RV spots can you have before it's required to get a commercial well or some other type of variance. For us, it was 15 lots. So we could put up to 15 RV spots before it's required we need a commercial well. A commercial well is a large well that can suffice more than just 15, but it needs to be regulated. That's why after 15, there needs to be some regulations. So that could be a big piece of infrastructure that could cost as much as $80,000 to $100,000, that adds a lot into the budget and it needs to be accounted for. But you got to figure out in your state, look up, whatever state you're in. In Texas, it's 15. You need to look up and find out how many spots can I put on my RV park before it's required I have to use commercial water or it needs to be regulated. That's really important. But yeah, you need to find land that fits your idea and your plan. You need to obviously have a plan. That should be common sense. You need to have a plan. You need to have a good piece of land. Once you have the land, you then need just a couple parts of infrastructure. Number one is you're gonna need electricity. So you need to figure out how you're gonna do your electricity. Are you gonna use electric poles? Or are you gonna use solar? What are you gonna do? So for us, we use just general electric. We work with a co-op locally, close in town, and they put in commercial wells for us. I got somebody calling me real quick. So we just put in basic electric poles. I think it's about $1,500 per electric pole. And that electric pole can service up to about 6 to 7. So I think we had to get maybe 2 or 3, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 or 3. And then you also have to do the private electricity as well. but you got to figure out your electricity situation. So you have to budget. How much is it going to be? How much is the wiring going to be on the private side? Are you going to do it? Are you going to hire somebody? What's that process going to be? That needs to be put into your budget, is the electricity. Next would be the septic, which is a huge part of your project. I personally paid $38,000 to put my septic system in. And that septic system services up to 15 lots. But that is a huge part of your budget. That's going to eat into a lot of your budget. So you need to figure out how much is it going to be. You need to get quotes from different installers. But the important part, before you even get a septic engineer, or before you even put the septic in, you need to get a septic engineer. So that could be anywhere from $1,000 all the way up to $10,000, up to $15,000. But it is required, as far as I know, at least in Texas, it's required that if you're going to put a septic in, you need to have a septic designer and engineer. So that person is going to pretty much write up a plan for you. They're going to facilitate where the waste is going to go. You need to figure out whether you're going to get an aerobic system, a basic, what kind of septic system are you going to get? Are you going to put it for long term? Are you going to put a little bit more up front to have a bigger system put in play that can handle more in the future? Or are you just going to do short term? You need to figure that out. But the septic is going to be a big part of your infrastructure. Another part of your infrastructure is going to be water. And my water situation is very, very different, probably compared to most people, because most people would probably start off with a residential well, and they'll build up to that threshold, which for us is 15 lots, remember, in Texas. But wherever you're at, it could be different. It could just be, I don't know, some states it could be 6 or 7, could be 20. I don't really know. I haven't done any research on other states, really. I've mostly just done Texas because that's where I live. But you got to figure that out. What's your water situation going to be? Are you going to put a residential well in? That could cost anywhere from, I think I got quotes for like 15, 20, 25 grand, even a little bit higher, 30 grand, and up. But somewhere in that ballpark. Is that what you're going to do? For us, we decided no, because we didn't see the value of putting in a residential well, possibly spending up to $25,000, and then having to upgrade to a commercial well, which essentially means the residential well becomes obsolete in the next phase. To us, that didn't make sense. So what we did was we ourselves, because there's no water regulation until 15 lots, what we did was we ourselves drilled and trenched out all the water lines ourselves to each lot. And then what we did was we had a central location where we put a huge water tank. So we have a 6,000 gallon water tank on the property, and we connected all the lines from the water tank to each lot. Then we bought a specialized motor that would disperse the water. And what we did was we used gravity, because we have a slightly inclined property. We put the water tank up at the top and brought the water down and used a motorized machine. I don't even know what the name is of it, but essentially a water stabilizer to pretty much stabilize the pressure to each lot and make sure that everybody's getting the proper pressure, not too strong but not too light. And it's been working fantastic. And how we get our water in is we just buy it from the municipality water, which is very cheap. I think for every 8,000 gallons, it's $22, so very cheap. And it's been working well. We just get a tote, we put it on the back of our truck, we fill it up every couple days, and we haven't had any problems. I mean, a couple times we've had a couple leaks with the water, but nothing serious, and it saved us thousands of dollars. I think that set up in total, the water tank was $1,500. The piping's essential anyway, so I mean that probably was, I would say, another $1,500, and then another $500 for the tank. So in total we spent $3,500 on our water system, whereas if we were to get a residential well, that could have cost us 25 grand. So we saved like 25 grand just doing that. And it's been working well. It's a little more of a laborious activity, but nothing crazy, and we've been able to withstand it. But that water tank could be used for something else in the future, whereas the residential well is going to become obsolete. You're not even going to use it because you need to get a commercial well. So that's another big aspect, is the water. And then lastly is the road. How are you going to pave your road? We've gotten quotes for asphalt for a lot of money, for 50, 60 grand for just a small part. That was too much for us. But the thing is the land needs to be done last. So you need to do the septic, water, electric first. and then you need to do the land after. Now you can't do the septic and the water together. That is something that you cannot do. You have to have, the septic has to be a different line. You can do the electric and water together on the same line when you cut lines in the road to connect to each spot. You can put the septic in the, the water and the electric in the same, but you cannot put the septic in the same. And what we did was we laid down some sand, make sure to take out all the rocks so that there would be no leaks or anything, because when it's backfilled and there's pressure on it, cars are going over it, we want to make sure there's no rocks in there. And so we put sand so that when that pressure amounts, that the pipes remain in good tact and that there, no rocks penetrate them. But you need to figure that out with your road situation. Once you cover it, what are you going to use? For us, we use crushed granite. Worked very well. It stabilizes relatively well. It's a very cheaper option. It is a little bit more messy though. When you get rain and so forth, it does kind of wash out a little bit, so it's best to get borders, and you can maybe put some aggregate over it. But crushed granite works well for us, and that just depends on your feel. If you're going for more of a luxury park, you may want to do something like asphalt or something more luxurious. For us, crushed granite kind of felt right for us because it's more of a natural feel, and it's very easy. But yeah, those are some of the basic things about infrastructure that you may want to think about. Pretty much when you're dealing with an RV park, you obviously need to have the land like we were talking with before in the plan. Those are must, obviously you can't do it if you don't have land. But getting more into the specifics, water, electric, septic, and road. Those are really the basics of your property. And those are really the things that you need to maintain. So how are you going to do those things? I might do another video where I do a cost breakdown of each. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a basic understanding of what you need. You need to figure out what kind of park you're going to do, what's your budget, but those are your basic things of infrastructure. Also your engineer, I forgot to mention, you're going to need at least a septic engineer. Depends on the state, I believe. So water, I don't think you're going to need an engineer. Electric, you're going to need to have somebody draw up the plan for you unless you know it yourself. But legally, you need to have a septic engineer because you're dealing with waste, human waste being disposed, which could be toxic to people, and it needs to be dispersed in a proper manner. So that's where it is required that you do work with an engineer. But yeah, that's kind of a breakdown. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure to put them down below. I'm going to start gearing my channel more towards RV parks. I kind of was posting travel and stuff because I've been traveling a lot, but I want to talk more about RV parks because I do feel that it's something of value to you guys, and you really like getting information about it because there's not a lot out there. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I'm going to come out with more, but thanks for tuning in. Please hit subscribe if you got some value. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.